Look who came sneaking back on their tippy toes. It's the rogue. And oh my, you've changed last time I saw you, like several months ago. Welcome to Pack Tactics, where steady aim gives you advantage. Before we start, I want to make it 100% clear. While I tend to be very negative about the martial changes in these playtests, I actually think they've gone in the right direction with this one. However, it's not enough. But if they continue down this road, we're gonna get a really good rogue. I just want you to know that I'm happy. However, I wouldn't say it's victory. There's still work to be done. This still has problems. Now we can begin. Last time we saw Rogue in the UA, they cleaned up some of the wording of sneak attack. Changed it to only be able to be used during the attack action, and not on any other turn. This was a bad move as it almost directly cuts into Rogue's already poor damage output. Part of these changes have now been reverted. We still have the cleaner wording, but rogues can now once again use teamwork and the like to increase their DPR. Fantastic, I like this. Good job. They also get access to weapon masteries, 2 of them to be specific. This isn't a massive boost or anything, but it's a good boost. I do like it. And I like how they brought back steady aim, which is from Tasha's. Advantage on one attack for the cost of your bonus action was almost never worth it in 5e. But depending on how action costs will pay out, I'm looking at you, Nick, I know you're watching, it might not be as expensive as it used to be. I'll take this. This is good. And now we're at the bad parts. They undid the changes to the subclass level progression. In 5e, rogues get subclass features at level 3, 9, 13, and 17. The last time we saw Rogue in the playtest, it was 3, 6, 10, and 14. Now it's back to the 5e version again. Now, this is my personal opinion, but I would prefer subclass identities to be more front-loaded. It's rare to get to the super high levels for many tables, so getting your specialization features earlier feels good. The next rogue feature is called Only Crits, where you can buy pretty dice and go on fun adventures. They're gonna do a Kickstarter project next month that's a source book for a steampunk world where you fly planes. Vroom, vroom. It's going to have unique class options, magic items, and even rules for racing. We were so excited about the idea that we made our own racetrack. Yeah! Anyways, back to dice. They've got tons of shiny dice that would make a dragon look like a complete noob. What's cool about them is if you buy a set like, for example, the Dragon Eye, you get an entire adventure for free with it, which is great. I highly recommend you check them out. Both links are in the description. And if you want to buy a set of dice, use the code PACKTACTICS for a 12% discount. Back to the video, the biggest changes the core class got was through a new way to use their sneak attack dice. The first time you get a feature pertaining to this is at level 5, through Cunning Strike. It's really quite similar to Battle Master maneuvers. You spend a number of dice that are noted, and you gain an additional effect when you deal sneak attack damage. The dice you spend for Cunning Strike doesn't do damage anymore. At level 5, they get Disarm, a way for rogues to knock something out of an enemy's hands. This is useful when fighting in the sky or above a void. You might be able to use object interaction to snag the weapon. Maybe your friend could do it. You can't disarm everything, by the way. If you're fighting a bear, you're not going to disarm the bear. Poison, a repeat constitution save poison condition for 1 minute. Fitting flavor-wise for sure. Trip, a dex or go prone for large or smaller enemies. If you have melee friends, they will love you. Withdraw, this is a way to skirmish a bit, but half your speed is not a lot. All of them require 1 sneak attack die. For now, you can only use 1 each time. Let's start with the pros. I actually think they listened to our feedback. I said last time I covered Rogue that the 5e version is mechanically boring in combat. All you had in the 5e version was you had sneak attack and your reactions. That's it. Now in this version, you're getting more stuff to do, and it's fitting to what rogues should be able to do. Also, they don't require you to pick from this set once you get the feature to use in the future. You can use any one of them anytime at all, which is great. Now for the cons. For some reason, Rogue needs to give up damage to use these features, but don't gain any additional sneak attack dice in return. That is a big deal breaker for me. Rogues already do bad damage, and while these features can be powerful in the right situations, I don't see a reason for them to make the rogue damage worse. They're the second weakest class in the game, and it's not like Weapon Masteries is gonna improve it. Literally almost everyone gets weapon masteries now. But back to the pros real quick. If they keep working on this and just keep giving Rogue more options and increase the damage, then Rogue is going to be really good. I can't be mad about this. They're on the right track. They just got to work even more with it. Anyways, at level 11, they get improved Stunning Strike, which allows them to use multiple of their Cunning Strike effects at once, but spending all the necessary dice. This is nice, but it comes quite late. I think it should come a little bit earlier. Then finally at level 14 they get Devious Strikes. This gives them 3 more options to spend their dice on. Daze. On a failed con save, the enemy is dazed until the end of your next turn. This is basically like a slow effect. If the enemy is restricted to melee attacks and is not in melee with someone, this basically costs them 1 attack. This costs 2 dice. Knockout. On a failed con save, the enemy is unconscious for 1 minute. They wake up when they take damage or if they make the save on repeat turns. This costs 6 ki. I don't know how much they're going to change the control spells, but this is a single target effect with a repeat constitution saving throw. Sure, it's an okay effect, but it's a huge cost. And compared to spells, this is pretty sad. And finally, Obscure. On a failed dex save, the target is blinded until the end of its next turn. In most cases, this would mean you and your allies get advantage on your attacks until that enemy's turn. So it's an improved variant of Trip for damage purposes. It does cost 3 dice though. Again, I like the direction they're heading, it's just they gotta work more with it. Other changes include Expertise being moved back from level 7 to 6. Still too late, but it's something. Reliable Talent has been moved from level 11 to 7. Wow, you might actually see this feature in your games now. I do actually like this change. I'm planning on making a video about how it isn't a fantastic feature though. Elusive was moved back to level 18 from 17. And finally, Stroke of Luck is now back to being the capstone. I prefer epic feats because I like options. That was the base class, and it's looking pretty good. But I wouldn't say this should be the final version. This still needs work, but it's getting there. This is the right direction. I think this is a pretty good skeleton so far. Subclasses. Let's look at Arcane Trickster first. It's mostly received buffs from the 5e iteration. It was already one of the better ones, so this is pretty nice to see. They are no longer restricted to illusion or enchantment wizard spells. By the way, are you guys interested in a video about Arcane Trickster spells in 5e? I can do a video about it if you guys want me to. Anyways, now they get to pick any arcane spells, which is quite a sizable buff. However, when you first get this feature, that's different. You're still restricted to enchantment and illusion arcane spells. This is really weird because at later levels, you can swap these out for arcane spells. For me, this is an unnecessary restriction. Here's another change. Mage Hand Ledger Domain lost some of its additional mechanics and rule guidelines. But to me, it seems like they might get moved to the default Mage Hand. But that might be some copium. The changes to Versatile Trickster seems fitting enough. I like how they adapted it to their new direction for Rogue. Otherwise, the subclass is mostly unchanged. Next up, Assassin. Assassinate has become more reliable, as you just get advantage on attack rolls in the first round now. That's a nice damage boost. Surprising Strikes has a lower damage peak, but if surprise is not common at your table, this does a lot more overall. Even when multiclassing in Assassin Rogue, you don't do it for the extra damage on crits, so I'm fine with this. On the one hand, I like that they made Infiltration Expertise a sort of mashup of Infiltration Expertise and Imposter from the 5e version. But it's still a terrible fluff feature that might as well be a level 1 feature. I don't understand why this is still here. Next, a new feature, Envenom Weapons. This is less than 4 DPR if we assume 2 attacks with 65% to hit, and the enemy has a 60% chance to fail their saving throw, not accounting for the fact that you might have rounds without sneak attack, and using cunning strikes reduces your damage. This basically makes up for 50% of the damage you lose due to using cunning strikes, in the best case. Come on! You are a 13th level assassin rogue. Assassin! You're supposed to do big damage, not small damage. Damage is literally what you do, and you're not getting much of an increase. Okay. Next, Death Strike still sucks, just a little bit less. Grave Domain Cleric in 5e gets to do this at level 2. Overall, they did a good job with Assassinate, and that's it. Everything else sucks. As for Swashbuckler, Panache has become a bit more usable, but quite costly, as it's also built into your Cunning Strike feature. I personally think this shouldn't be gated behind a subclass, it should be part of the base class. I mean, sure, it's kind of fitting to the theme, but I would prefer them getting something more unique, you know? Dashing Strikes replaces Elegant Maneuver, which was one sad feature. Now they get a way worse shield spell and a budget Bardic Inspiration. And this is at level 13. I still think this is sad. I don't get what these even have to do with Cunning Strikes at this point, besides it costing sneak attack dice. Anyways, if they're gonna keep this, then I would suggest putting it in the base class. Finally, they changed Master Duelist to not be once per rest, but also made it melee range only, with even more exceptions. Like needing to have used sneak attack previously, and no other creatures being within 5 feet of you. This is another disappointing change. Wizards of the Coast, we are level 17. Wizards can literally turn people into dragons. You don't need to be careful with marshals at level 17. The game is pretty much over at this point. Anyways, this subclass, just like 5e, is barely worth considering. Finally, we have Thief. Fast Hands has been written properly. Rejoice! The effectiveness of the class still heavily depends on getting magic items though. Second story work is still not impressive. Kobold, should we hold hands? Huh? It says you need at least one hand hold during the move. That's not what that means. Oh, wait. You don't need a free hand. There just needs to be hand holds. I assume close by? Not a big deal, but kind of funny to think about. Let's hold hands! Gator, I'm trying to make a video here. Anyway, Supreme Sneak, their 9th level feature, has now turned into what should be both free and a base rogue feature. Making this always on for thief rogues would be acceptable for me, but it's still kinda weak. Use Magic Device is still missing the fun parts of the 5e version, aka being able to use any magic item there is. But hey, Thief's Reflexes is now back. That's something. That was the subclasses, and it was pretty bad. So now the question is, why is Rogue still mediocre overall? They added cool stuff, and they're heading towards the right direction. But for every buff, they had to add some sort of unnecessary restriction to keep the Rogue in check. I say just let go of the reins, guys. This rogue is still pretty weak in DPR. There's plenty of room for buffs. Right now, 3 out of the 4 subclass changes are just super poor. They really need some more work. Anyways, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, comment, and all that jazz. If you wish to support me on Patreon, you can. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.